Our planet is losing its ice. Scientists say the ice losses fueled by global warming now total more than 1.2 trillion tons a year. A recent UN climate report says ice sheet and glacier melt are the main contributors to rising sea levels that threaten to swamp coastal cities. Senior national and environmental correspondent, that's Ben Tracy, has visited Iceland, where ice covers 10% of the country. But now that country is rapidly losing all of its glaciers.
So this is your office.
It is.
This is amazing.
I love my office.
I would too.
We met glaciologist M. Jackson on top of one of her favorite places in the world.
Let's talk about this giant piece of ice we're standing on.
Yeah.
What is this called?
So we're on the glacier Breiðamerkurjökull, right? This is Iceland's third largest glacier, and it flows right off of the Vatnajökull ice cap.
That's the largest glacier mass in Europe, more than half a mile thick in some parts. It is now dissolving before our eyes.
My name is Haukur Ingi, and I am the CEO and company owner of Glacier Adventure, and I run the small glacier activity and mountain company in the southeast coast of Iceland.
I am so excited to talk to you. Hi, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to be with you.
So I want to learn properly. How do I properly say your name?
So it's always quite difficult, but we have, let's say, H-A-U-K-U-R, and the A and U goes into Ö, so it's Haukur. And you're in the neighborhood.
Because all right, so I'm from my family's from Haiti, so I learned how to speak English when I was 8. So there's words in English I don't even say very well. So that's why I always ask. I go, I want to learn and I want to remember. Versus, because my dad always said, in America you learn to take a test. In other countries we learn forever. I want to learn forever.
Yeah. So Haukur.
Here.
Haukur.
Here. Silently. Here.
Haukur. Yeah, pretty good. There you have it.
Here. See, I feel like when I'm excited, I say it wrong, but yeah. Okay, good. All right, this is a good start. Okay, this is good. So obviously you've already said you're in Iceland. I have so many questions about your business. I first discovered you. There's a program that I watched, Mo Rocca Adventures. And you were on it, and I was like, oh, not only do I want to go, but I want to learn. I want to learn so much about you because I interviewed a startup company that came to Boston from Iceland. He works on the water, a lot on the water. So we speak often, and he's amazing. But he was saying, he goes, Jodi, you need to meet more people in Iceland because I do one of 10 zillion things that are done on this small little place in this earth. There's so many people that are creating innovative, amazing things. And all of a sudden you appeared and I'm like, yes, my second person. So let's start from the beginning. So what this podcast is about is when the pandemic first started, the media was talking about how small businesses were going to die. And I was watching how small businesses and entrepreneurs were coming up with new ways to stay alive during the pandemic and well after. And one of the things that I wanted to do the most was I wanted people to know who you are as a person, because we know who Oprah is, we know who Jeff Bezos is, we know who Steve Jobs is, but we don't know the people that are in our neighborhoods. So before we start talking about the business, tell me about you, the young you, where you were, the way you were raised, your family, your friends, just who are you as a person, and how did the first, because I know there's a first business before this business. How did the first business start?
So yeah, I'm born in Reykjavik in 1980, so I'm 41 now.
Mhm.
And my parents, they were 23, 24 when they had me. They come from just a normal Icelandic background. My grandparents, one of my grandmother worked as a nurse, and another one worked at a power plant in Reykjavik. And then second grandfather, he ran a gift shop in Reykjavik, and my grandmother was a housewife. She took care of the children in the house. And then my parents, they went to high school, and my dad finished college.
Mhm.
And when I was 4, they decided to move to this small location in Iceland on the southeast coast called Höfn.
Mhm.
And it's a small fishing village where I then grew up from 4-year-old until I was 17.
Mhm.
And I guess I just got the basic Icelandic how to be raised. And here in Höfn, you experience a lot of freedom because the summers, they are kind of endless daylight. And I remember just as a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old being outside until 11, 12 o'clock midnight, and then kind of the parents, they start to look for you if you're not home then. So I experienced a lot of freedom in my childhood. I had, of course, just a very supportive and warm family members through both my parents and my mom and my dad as well. So good relationship with all of my relatives. I have one younger brother that is 6 years younger than I am.
Mhm.
And my parents, they tell me that I was such a big handle to handle as a child. So they waited 6 years until they thought they were able to have the second one. But I guess as I grew older, I got totally reversed. So at some point, I stopped being this hyperactive child, and I become more stable.
I think that the second you said that they had to go looking for you at 10, 11, 12 o'clock because it was daylight, I had in my mind already, he was a lot of energy.
Yeah, I guess so. And it's been my case, yeah, since ever I remembered. I was a very active child, both outside of school and also in school, often getting in troubles. So at some point, my best friend was the principal. When I had done something wrong, he took me in his office and we played chess together. And he never understood why I was always getting in trouble. Because when we had our quality time, it was just everything was settled, and we came along very well along together.
Are you still friends with him now?
Yes. So the funny part, when you grow up in a small society like Höfn, which is only 1,700 people living in a town, you almost know each and every individual with their name.
Yep.
And what they do, what their children do. So even though it looks very small, but it actually is a very big society in that sense. You, as I say, you basically know 1,700 people around you, what they do, and when they go to work, where they work, what kind of car they drive, and where they live. So it's a strange mix coming from a small town that is actually quite big society that you are a part of.
I always so I live in a very, well, in comparison to you, not that small, but I live in a quintessential New England small town, also on the coast. So coastal, it's a sailing community, and we have 20,000 residents. But same thing, the 20,000, we are in this little tiny bubble on the water. No one, people in Boston, so I'm 16 miles, which is an hour and a half, depending on the day, to Boston. And people say, "Oh, you live so far." I'm like, I go, we don't live far, but in our cute little sweet bubble, we're so happy and we're content. We know everyone. Everyone knows. It's so funny how those small little towns, we take the time to get to know people more.
Yeah, I agree. It becomes like a nice community that kind of supports each other. And we have a saying in Iceland that it takes a town to raise a child.
It does. So and here it's like it takes a village to raise a child. So same difference. It really does, because when we were growing up, Mrs. Tucciaroni, she would watch all the kids, and if you got in trouble, you were so afraid to get home, because by the time you got home, she already made the phone call. And you're like, "Oh no!"
Yeah, that's the same feeling I remember having here as a child.
So walk me through, like, so you're 17, you've been there since, so I'm sorry, what age were you? You were born and raised here, or you?
Yeah, I was born in Reykjavik until I was 4. Then my parents wanted to just test out living in another place than Reykjavik. So they moved to this small fishing village called Hub. And they only wanted to try it out for 3 years, but they ended up being here for 14 years because growing up here, it's very easy to raise up children here because of all of the freedom that you have.
But you know what? I'm going to ask the question. Iceland in itself is small, and it seems like even with Reykjavik, with all the tourists coming in and out, it seems that it's still safe. I mean, it's the same. I've never heard of any crimes whatsoever in Iceland. Is it because there were 700 people versus, Reykjavik is definitely larger. Was it because they didn't want you to be influenced by the tourists and stay true to your culture in Iceland?
The reason why they moved, or?
Yeah,
I think they were just adventurers. They wanted to try something out. And I guess my dad recently graduated from college, and he got an interesting job offer. So they decided to move. So these 3 years turned out to be 14.
Yeah.
But they had all of their, let's say, support in Reykjavik. Both their parents, they lived in Reykjavik. So in 1997, they decided to move back to Reykjavik. But I always had a very strong connections to this area. And even though they moved, I kept coming here during the summertime.
Okay.
So I was then playing soccer with a local team here called Sindri. So I kind of left them during the winter time, not during the summertime, but stayed with them during the winter time.
Okay.
But as a child, I was active in soccer. I played soccer like almost every time I could. And when I graduated from just the first school years, let's say when I was 16 and went up to high school, I moved to Reykjavik and stayed with my uncle for 1 year, for one winter. And I kind of say that I moved out of my parents' house when I was 16, because after that, I never lived a full year with them. I was either then in school in Reykjavik for the winter, or I came back to Hub when they moved to Reykjavik again. I came back to Hub to play soccer. And after I finished my high school year in a commercial school in Reykjavik, I started college to study economics. And shortly, like after second year of college, I meet my wife, and we move in together when we are 20, 21, something like that. So yeah, I always say that I was kicked out of the house quite soon when I was 16, but I always had a great environment to be a part of.
That's one of the things that I feel that your community really builds the person. And it seems like your communities, whether it's Reykjavik, whether it's your mom and dad, whether it's your uncle, your wife, your community just kept on getting stronger and stronger, which is one of the things that I love hearing. How did you, so you went to university for economics. How did you get into the business that you're in now?
So I guess it was kind of a coincidence. So I after I graduated from college, I started to work for a bank in Reykjavik. And at that time, my friend was, he was the mayor here in Hub, in this town. And at that point, the capital of Iceland was kind of brain draining the rural areas, the countryside. So all of the kids and the young adults that got education, they kind of got sucked into Reykjavik area where they had job that was more appropriate to what they were studying.
Yes.
So if you see how Iceland is built up, so 70 to 80% of all of the population lives in the capital area. So I always wanted to come back if I had a chance. So this friend of mine that was the mayor of Hub, he offered me a position to come and work as a CEO for the construction department for the municipality.
Okay.
I decide that it's definitely a different opportunity. And this was kind of being a middleman, like a product manager or project manager between the building things and the running things of the municipality, and then the politicians as well.
Yeah.
So obviously it requires engineering background to control the construction department. But I came there in as a, let's say, as making plans and kind of managing the department. So my wife is from a small farm close by Hub. So we decided together that it might be interesting to move back and raise up our children. We already had 2 children then ourselves. So that's kind of what brought us then back to Hub, and I started to work for the municipality. And after a while working there was some changes in the municipality, and I was asked to take over the financial department as well, and become the deputy mayor as well, kind of replacement. When my friend went on a vacation, I basically stepped in and took care of his obligations as well. So at that time, I was working as a CEO for the financial department and the construction department and the deputy mayor. And you could say that I kind of burned out. It was just too much projects that I needed to manage, and I didn't cope with it. So I kind of just hit the wall. And after having hit the wall and kind of gotten back to the ground, I started just to rethink things over. What do I want to do with my life? And you put a lot of effort into what you were doing, what I was doing for the municipality. And so what brought me to Glacier Adventure, what I'm doing today, was basically I wanted to see what I could do on my own without anyone else controlling what we were doing. And I also wanted to try to do something like in the countryside, make something work there, because I'm very interested in how you can exchange value from what you do in exchange for other value. Like, and I don't necessarily think you need to do it in the big cities. You can do it anywhere if there is a market for it. And in the beginning as well, we wanted to try to do something simple where we could just use ourselves as a value to someone else, with taking them outside, telling them stories about the landscape and the old history that is hidden inside our community.
Yeah.
And that kind of developed into more thinking about how we can contribute to, let's say, global sustainability or global responsibility.
Yep.
So today, that's what we are sort of motivates us through Glacier Adventure, is to keep on building something in the small farm where my wife is from, Harley, and try to contribute a little bit to our guests and to the world itself. Something, raise awareness about climatic changes and how we can change that through sustainability.
So I'm gonna stop you for a little bit, and I'm gonna rewind a little bit. From you telling me how your personality was when you were younger, and then you went into economics, and it just, for me in my mind, I'm like, it didn't even make sense, because all your energy is being bottled up in a suit, in a place where you have to do this work. And yet you were the adventurous. You were the one that would, on your own terms, you would be calm playing chess with your principal, but yet you were seeing the world, you wanted freedom, and yet you took on a job that was economics that 100% in my mind doesn't make sense. So why did you go that route of taking the proper traditional job?
Yeah, I guess safety is part of it. We already had 2 children. I necessarily didn't have passion for business or economics as I went through high school and college.
Yeah.
It's kind of something that I did, you could say, because my parents, they went the same way as well. But I know today that economics, it's a very good structure and fundament for a lot of different things.
Yep.
That's what I like about running Glacier Adventure, is how you can use the economics in a much wider perspective.
Okay.
Because it has helped me a lot with planning and setting up different options to choose from and calculating them, and then taking educated risks as well. But I guess probably 95% of people can say the same. They kind of are pushed into something that they're okay with going and doing. And that's kind of how I ended up through the high school and the college, ending up as an economist.
You alluded to this, you mentioned it very quickly, your wife's family's farm. Did you ever have in your mind, because your family weren't entrepreneurs, or were there any people in your family that were entrepreneurs, or did you get guidance from your father-in-law because he owned a farm and he was an entrepreneur? So where did you get that, before you started the business, where did you get that essence of, okay, I have business background, I want to do something on my own terms, but I still have to create a business. And creating business is not for the faint of heart. Some people can, some people can't. It's a lot of work, and there's peaks and valleys. So where did you get the most guidance to how to understand how to grow or how to design a business?
Yeah, I guess if I rewind a little bit, I always looked a lot up to my grandfather and one of his sons as well that has passed away. And my grandfather, he kind of ran a business, and my uncle, he controlled, let's say, like a sports center in Reykjavik capital. And my dad, he worked a lot as well. As I was growing up, he was spent a lot of hours at the office.
Yeah.
And then I guess through the soccer as well, you understand that if you want to succeed, you need to put a lot of effort in the things that you want to the goals you want to conquer. And it's also the mentality of trying, like, never giving up. Just keep on going, and even though it might seem a little bit difficult, you just need to work a little bit harder. So I definitely had good role models in that sense. And then after I meet my wife and get to know her family members as well, it's easy to be motivated. For example, she has a unique grandmother that raised up 9 children.
That's a lot of work.
Yes, exactly. But
that's a business. People just don't understand. But raising 9 good people, humans, that's a business.
Yeah, that's just, I'm amazed by that individual and person. And she's still alive. And when I remember her in Hali, in her old house in Hali, like, even though she was almost blind, she was still like baking pancakes, making sure that everyone had coffee. And this was a house where you could maybe have up to 20 to 30 people coming randomly in.
Wow.
And she was making sure that everything was spick and span. And I mean, in between, she would go and hurdle the cows back from being milked, maybe walked 3-4 kilometers to get them. And if people were saying like, hey, you should rest, then she said like, no, I mean, what purpose do I have if I can't do things like this?
It's true. Well, it's true. Like, because once she stops, she might as well be dead, and she won't stop.
Yeah, and like, person that is always positive, like never negative, never speaks any ill of any other person as well. And then, of course, my wife's parents as well. They're unique as well. Never complain. They are like super hardworking. And it's kind of similar with my father-in-law. He's like, even though they have stopped working as cow farmers, he's still always active. And both of our parents have helped us a lot, building up the business. Especially my parents with the bookkeeping, and my mother and father-in-law with helping up building up the facility. So what we did, we are changing their old workplace where they used to milk the cows. We are changing that into a meeting point. And we have up to 1,500 square meters of...
Wait, before, what happened to the cows? So what happened where all of a sudden we're no longer having the milking cows? I mean, so was there no longer a use for it? Did they want to retire and no longer do it?
Yeah, exactly. That's the case. So they retired.
Okay.
They are born in 1948 and 1952. So they had the opportunity to retire when they were 70. And the cows, they were basically sent away. And the houses, they are then left empty.
Okay.
And we had the opportunity then to start slowly to rebuild part of it. Let's say the place where they would milk the cows and where they would keep the milk. It's like a 60 square meter building.
Okay.
That we could then adjust to our business, where we can accommodate and we can take people in, give them the equipment they need before we take them out to the mountains or the glaciers. And then we have a small room where we can eat lunch ourselves, have all of our equipment, get ready for the morning and prepare for the next day. And the rest of the houses that are there where the cows would sleep and where the barn is, and actually the poo tank as well. That's something that we have been working then with an architect since 2017, of building up accommodation and a small restaurant. And then we have this idea to kind of circulate it around something that we call a glacier and mountain center, that would focus on climatic changes and sustainability. And now we have kind of a 5-year plan of making all of these small different spaces, adjust them to what we need. It needs, of course, a lot of work and also capital as well. But we can definitely see that in the next 5 years, we can finish the puzzle and make the dream come true by step, kind of setting it up slowly. And what I gained from the municipality, of course, when I was, let's say, one project was building a swimming pool from beginning and a football pitch and an athletic runway as well. So I had the opportunity to meet interesting architects, engineers, builders as well, plumbers, electricians. So my social network is very strong as well, which is helping me now in this, what we are doing.
I always tell a lot of my friends' children, when you go to school, make friends with people that are, their dads are the plumbers, the electricians, stuff like that. The doctors and the lawyers, they're nice, but they're not going to really help you when you really need them. So good job on you.
Yeah, that's a funny setup. And so true, because as you go through life, it's so important to make good friends. It's what will kind of help you on the way.
I do have a question. Why did you decide the glaciers? I mean, why, what made you, I mean, you could have gone so many different directions in creating your own business. Why did you decide the glaciers was something that made the most sense for you?
So in the beginning, we wanted actually to offer mountain hiking tours. There is a very special path that is called the Bull Path. And it's a hiking route where they used to herd bulls into a very isolated valley. So the bulls wouldn't eat the grass in the close by area by the farm. And we wanted to focus on that in the beginning, explaining people our history through that path. But we found it difficult to sell that part, because when people come to Iceland, they want to see the black sand beaches, they want to see the waterfalls, they want to see the northern lights, and then the glaciers that we have. It's so easy to access them.
Yes.
And they are interesting. It's a ground that it's like just a big chunk of ice. You're walking on very odd crampons. You have a harness on, a helmet, and an ice axe. And it was kind of easier to go through the storytelling and selling people the access to a safe path on the glacier and guiding them on the glacier. So that was kind of what pushed us into that path. But being able to build it up from the glaciers, where it's easier to invite people to come and listen to the stories going on a glacier walk, that has also opened up opportunities to sell the other tours that we wanted to do in the beginning.
Okay.
As well.
What when you were saying that the glaciers are just there, I mean, like they're there, you walk in. So what are you, walk me through every day for you. So when you get a group, and how big can the group be that comes in, number one, and what do they experience when they're there? I mean, and mind you, I'm gonna add video to this, that way people can visualize. But for you, what have you created for the guests that are coming to you? Yeah,
so I would say that we have created a very personal experience for people that come and join our glacier hiking tour or the ice gear tour or the walking tour as well. And what we have been trying to do is, let's say you go to a city or you go to a landscape, and the city or the landscape is beautiful, there's a beautiful architect or beautiful mountains or a lake or something like that. But if you go there with a local and you get a little bit of the stories behind the mountains, behind the architect, then you see the same thing that you would see without a guide, but you get kind of like a little bit deeper experience. And that's what we have been trying to create with our guides as well, to give the people the experience of enjoying the glacier hike, enjoying the mountain hike, but getting a little bit of the extra of the stories behind everything. So you come in as a guest, for example, for an ice cave tour, you get coffee on our treat, you are offered to go to the toilet in a cozy environment. You sit in a car because we need to drive to the glaciers to get access to it. And on the way, we use the opportunity to tell them a little bit about the surrounding and how the glacier has actually developed and molded the environment that we are driving through. And you can compare the landscape that we have in our location to the landscape in Lake Como, Lake Garda in Italy, and the Great Lakes in Michigan, when you had glaciers basically carving out the Great Lakes of Michigan. So here you can just see it in action. What happened 20,000 years ago in Lake Michigan, you can see it here basically happening as we speak.
Wow.
We try to give them an insight into how fast the glaciers have changed the environment. Then, of course, just the general experience to walk on a glacier on a crampon with crampons. But at the same time, we are a little bit feeding them with information about sustainability, how, like, raising up questions about fossil fuel use compared to sun power or wind power or something that is more sustainable. Which
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for a quick second. That's by far one of the biggest things. I mean, the environment, the climate is the biggest discussion. Love, pro, con, everyone's talking about it. You're in Iceland, and people in their minds, they don't understand that Iceland has summer. So people in their mind, they're just thinking that you're living in ice all the time. What is it like from the time that you were younger and you were just freedom and you're just playing and having fun and you're seeing all the weather to now? How dramatically has it changed for you visually seeing it every single day, but also for the country? I mean, in respect to the country, you only know one way of the country sustain itself, and it's the weather is changing. It's getting warmer. How has that been for you in revolving? I mean, in your years. I mean, in your 40-ish years, you've watched your country change right before your eyes. But where does it go from here? I mean, how you're bringing people in to understand about sustainability, and hopefully it sticks. Hopefully they go home and they remember it and they start doing things. But it's a small group of people. What's happening in the country? So this is lots of questions here. So number one, how has the country changed from when you were younger to now? How are the people taking in the information you're giving? And then what do you see for your country in the future as this the global conversation continues, the global climate conversation continues to grow?
Yeah, so when I remember as a child, the winters were a little bit colder and we had more snow. Now we kind of have less of the season change of the springtime and the fall time. They kind of blend in with the summer and the winter. And on the southeast coast, we have more of just like a very, very long fall, even throughout the winter. It never gets a lot of snow in the lower area where we live. And as we get to know, just of course, very limited amount of guests, but we still want to try to send them with something when they go away, to tell their friends or family members about what they experienced with us. So what we hope to be able to accomplish is just awake awareness that will lead to something else. And just a small example, we have had the opportunity to guide National Geographic student groups to our area. And we go through the same process of inviting them to our basically base camp, taking them on a glacier, explaining how dramatic the changes of the ice glacier has been.
Yep.
And there was a student that came probably 4 years ago. And now that same student is an advisor with the Biden administration.
Nice.
So, yeah, and I know from one of the tour leaders that when that person came on a tour with us, he got influenced. He really got influenced. So I would say that we have a chance, because we meet so many interesting people from all over the world. We have a chance to touch someone that can spread a seed somewhere else in the world, in the globe, which kind of motivates us.
Yeah.
So this small example, for example, we could say that we have had a small influence in the USA politics.
And you know what? And I'm very happy because we are stubborn. I mean, and I always say, like, we, because I'm here, so I'm going to say we as a society, we're stubborn. I, as an individual, that my family is from an island, we're more aware of things. And so the way that I was raised, I'm very aware. I mean, I'm 52 years old. So I've always been aware of the environment and how we hurt it, it will hurt us. It's like, we have to give back. We have to take care of everything that's around us. This is why I chose to live in a town that's by the ocean. I look out the window, there's the ocean. I go, and people are like, oh, it must be really cold. I go, it doesn't matter, because I have the woods, I have the coyotes. We have a problem with coyotes right now, but we have the things, we have like animals, and it's just beautiful. And it really does bother me when people, because they don't see it, they're in the city, they don't see it, they don't think about it. But when you see it, you're more appreciative of it. And so individuals coming to you, and they're on holiday, they're just like, I'm so excited, we're gonna go on a trek, and then they see how the drips and the drips and the drips, and like, it's melting in front of you. It's in front of your eyes, things are melting, and now they are very aware. So I do appreciate what you're doing. I think that it makes sense. Where do you go from here? So you've done a good job, you're growing the business, you're looking to expand it. Where do you go from here? Is there another, like, because now it's like, in my mind, I'm seeing you're a child, you're highly active, you love the freedom of creating and doing your own thing, you love the environment, you love sports, that's where the energy comes in. You've created this business where you're talking about sustainability, which kind of goes back to when you were in the government, because economics and things. So I'm seeing the weaving very, very clearly. But now where? What happens next for you? Because and I ask this question because the pandemic happened, and you heard the stories about in Italy where all of a sudden the dolphins started coming back, and the birds and all the animals started like, oh, look, we have the planet again. So what happens with your business, and how does it grow from here to talk about the environment?
Yeah, exactly. It's a good question. So during the pandemic, the first 2-3 weeks were kind of stressful and difficult just to understand the uncertainty.
Yeah.
But at some point, I just decided for myself, try to do something positive about the situation, because you couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
So what we decided to do was just to try to restructure the setup, how we do things. And it gave me actually, or us, time also to go a little bit further with the Glacier and Mountain Center, something that my wife had always thought that would be necessary for our area, where we have access to glaciers and beautiful mountains as well. And we should be using that kind of as an outdoor classroom to tell the world what is happening. And it's perfect. Our location is perfect because we are just 13 kilometers away from this amazing glacier lagoon where you have icebergs floating in. And I wanted to influence more, let's say, the people around us, and open up a platform where scientists can come and explain things that they are studying to the public that make sense to the public. For me, at the moment, it's a little bit too complex for the public to understand what the scientists are focused on. They are so focused
100%.
Yeah, micro things. So what we look at the Glacier and Mountain Center, kind of like a bridge from the scientists to us, the normal people. And that's actually what I am the most excited about for the future, to try to make that platform. And what we hope to achieve with the Glacier and Mountain Center is basically to have a box that we have a beautiful barn that is kind of like you can go and you can dine there, you can have a lecture there, you can have a concert, a play, whatever the minds come to. So what we would like to do is we would like to do something there on our own with our guests. Let's say if you would be an artist, a musician, a scientist, you could come as well. You could host a lecture, you could set up a play, you could set up a concert. The only thing it would need to lean into sustainability and climatic change. So I hope that we can meet many people on the way, and we can actually have that platform over there for many different individuals to come and express themselves. So they can kind of help us make the Glacier and Mountain Center more for everyone and more diversified. So that's something that we hope to do.
I like that idea only because when people think Iceland, they only think one location. They don't understand there's many locations, and you being able to create Glacier Adventures opens up the country to another area where people can come and gravitate towards.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I talk about these ideas with my guests, and I've met many people that have actually wanted to pass ideas of how it can be better, or basically an artist that makes beautiful pictures by painting like huge art pieces. Like we need to come maybe and set up a exhibition there. So it's very interesting, and we are also developing now something we call ski tour or side tour.
Okay.
And we're doing that with the University in Iceland.
Wait, what is it?
It's basically a scientific tourism, when we can then give our guests information before they come, and then they join the tour, they get education on the tour, and then after the tour we go into this center hall or the barn, and then they can have a discussion over there as well to deepen the conversation between people. And we have been hosting student groups through that program, and it's so interesting to hear and understand what young people think and how they see the world. And what they have concluded is that we haven't seen all of the technical advantage that we will see in the future to help us solve sustainability and climate changes as well. So that's something. Just to add to what we are doing with the center.
I love this, and this is why the second I saw you, I was like, I have to have him on, and I'm always so honored when I don't know you, I have no connection to you, and I send you an email and you say yes. So I'm always honored when people say yes, because I'm like, yes, because if someone wants to promote you, always say yes. Always, as long as they shouldn't charge you. Don't go those podcasts that charge you, never go there. Always like individuals that want us there and get you out there. You touched base on this, and I'm going to go back to it. The pandemic, March 2020, we're all watching. I mean, I was in Mexico on stage, and someone asked me what was going on in the United States. I'm like, I don't know. I got back here, and I was like, okay, because I started my business in 2009 during the recession. The recession didn't hit everyone. So there were certain countries that 2008, it didn't bother anybody. This time, everyone got hit. So what was it like for you at the beginning? And what is it for like you now for you personally and professionally?
And now a message from our sponsor.
Since 2017, the Foundation for Business Equity has existed to support Black and Latinx-led companies in reaching their full potential by providing access to critical growth tools that include expanded networks, capital, and markets. To learn more about the Foundation for Business Equity, FBE, visit fbequity.org. And now, back to our guest.
So, yeah, in the beginning, it was just very stressful. I after 3 weeks, I decided to stop drinking coffee, eating sugar, and drinking alcohol. It was the main thing that I did, which helped me gain better sleep, live a healthy lifestyle. So, as I said before, I decided to basically to look at the pandemic as a positive thing as well. So it gave me the opportunity to restructure the things that we want to achieve, and focus, like set things in better focus. So I would definitely say that the pandemic in the long run, they helped us. It helped us. And yeah, what was the second part of the question?
In regards of what you were at the beginning of the pandemic, but where are you now in regards of for personally and professionally? And also you have a team. I mean, so it's not just you. So how was it maintaining the business, the family, the kids, and your team?
Yeah, so now finally, like I feel I'm not there yet, but I feel that I'm able to get a little bit more equilibrium between the personal life and the working life. So obviously the last 18-20 months have been very busy, just trying to get through the pandemic. But I'm much more hopeful that it will be more quality time with the family as well in the near future. So I would definitely say that I'm actually in a better place personally and business-wise now than before the pandemic. And this is very interesting because you know how it's difficult to change people's habits. And people say that
we are creatures of habit.
Yes. But if you rewind a little bit, and even though everything stopped and people, of course, went through difficult times, but the sun comes up in the east and sits down in the west. And I was hoping that the pandemic would also teach us that there is many different ways to live life. And I think that's also key for the future, that imagine what we know now and how our ancestors, what they were, the conditions that they needed to live in. If we could rewind a little bit back, even though we have access to a lot of qualities of how we can live life, we would just take few steps back with consumption and how we choose to use our time. I think I was hoping that the pandemic would teach us that, like spending more time with family, friends, ourselves as well. And just noticing that we don't need to rush everything.
I think that a lot more people that you would assume have learned that. I don't know if you've noticed in the United States, I mentioned earlier, 4.4 million people walked away from good paying jobs. That was just in April, and the numbers are continuing. They're leaving 6-figure jobs because they say it's not about the money anymore for them. More people are starting their own businesses because they want it on their own terms. And so I think that although you're seeing on TV, the people that are still like the clothes and they're going to the bars and all, you're seeing all this fast-paced. There's still a larger group of individuals that are like, I'm good, I'm leaving.
Yeah. And yeah, I hope that just more people will take few steps back and try to do the same if it's possible.
How's your team doing?
Yeah, I think everyone is doing well. Yeah, everyone is doing well. So yeah, I can't say anything else, but it feels like everyone is doing well. Everyone is happy at work. We are just starting, even though it's a very small community of guides.
Yeah.
We're like between 5 to 7. Sometimes we go up to 8, 9, but
Yeah.
maybe the core is 5 to 6. And we started a new project where we just have 9 questions to answer how we feel about the workplace and ourselves and stuff like that. So
Isn't that nice? 9 questions, which is pretty much the perfect number, because when you see a list of like, I go, fill in this survey, and people are like, oh, I go, I don't like this job because you're making me do this survey. But 9 questions, I can do 9 questions. That's ideal. That's really good. You have still 2 children or more children?
I have 3 children now.
You have 3 children. How was it? Well, were schools closed for you as well?
So only for my oldest one, my 17-year-old. Then he was then in Reykjavik.
Yep.
First year in high school.
Okay.
Very excited, but unfortunately, the schools, they weren't open in high school. So we were fortunate he came back as well. He's now here in high school here, doing very interesting and good things here. So
good.
But with the 8-year-old and the 14-year-old, that was just business as usual. So
the good thing is there was not a major disruption in your home, which is good.
Yes.
And is your wife in the business as well, or does she do something else? Or does she just tend to the home?
She's teaching in the school, but before the pandemic, she was also working for the business.
Okay.
But throughout the pandemic, the business needed to lay off almost every employee.
You laid off your wife?
Oh, yes. He was the first to go. But,
that must have been a fun discussion.
Yeah. But that was very understandable. And I know that the school was very happy with it because they took it right away. She's a very good teacher.
That's funny. I love it. I have 2 more questions. I've definitely taken more of your time, but I love you. I mean, I just need you. I need more people to know about you. So this is great. The travel industry overall is changing. Now the borders are opening. People are traveling more. This holiday season, up to January, February, you're going to see a lot of people because now proof of COVID tests, proof of testing, just to get you to other locations. What does that do for you? What you're in the industry, so what do you believe will happen with the industry of travel? Because people in their mind thinking everyone's going to go, everything, like people are going to be on planes, etc. But there's still fear. So what do you think will happen? What's the future of tourism, but not just tourism, but adventure tourism?
Yeah, unless we will have any restrictions of either because of it's pollutive to travel or because of some difficulties with the pandemic, then I think things will just go back to the same thing as it was.
Okay.
Kind of unfortunately. But I'm hoping for the future that we will figure out a way to travel with a more sustainable way. Maybe if we develop bigger batteries to bring ships that only run on batteries or aeroplanes that only run on batteries. That's what I'm hoping, but I'm afraid that it's just too difficult to change the habits of people, and we are not ready to make those changes. So I think the business-wise, I think we are going to like have guests coming to Iceland over the next 5 to 10 years. But yeah, so I think tourism will like continue to grow in the next few years at least. And I don't see that the pandemic will close it down unless we would have just a new different virus that we would need to start up again. Of course, that's a possibility as a new version of a coronavirus or something else. So, but I guess that we will only see an increase in tourism in the next few years. Which is odd. Yeah, which is odd for me to say. I'm almost talking against my job, but at the same time, what we want to do, we want to keep on influencing as long as we have guests that want to travel. But I'm not sure that people are ready to just say goodbye to traveling.
Yeah, the traveling part. I mean, I'm a traveler. I don't mind being home, but during the pandemic, I just traveled within my state. I traveled within New England. I discovered things that I would have never known because I would leave the country, and now I'm discovering things in my own backyard. So I always found a way because I can't sit still for long. So I love it because we have a direct flight from Boston to Iceland. So I was going to be there in 2019, and then I had to redirect because I had a family member that died in Haiti, and I had to go to Haiti. I didn't have to go. I wanted to go to Haiti. So I had my everything booked, and I don't like staying in cities. I like, or where the tourists are. I like being on the outskirts. So you will definitely see me. I'm telling you this right now. You will definitely see me in 2022. Because it's so easy from Boston to get there that it's awesome. It's so easy. Lithium, I think the biggest problem with the lithium is the fact that, and we know this, we're on our phone. When your phone gets cold, it turns off. So if I'm on a ship or on a plane and it gets cold, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
It is the best way to travel. I mean, it's the best power source right now, but it's not sustainable in respect. I mean, I should say, I don't think sustainable is the right word that I should be using, but it doesn't work all the time. Let's just say that it just doesn't work all the time.
Yeah. I agree. This is something that I think we will, of course, need to wait to answer this big question for some years or some decades, but hopefully not too long.
Crossing our fingers there.
Yeah. Okay. It's very difficult to kind of talk about it because I'm not sure how to describe it, but it's kind of like if you have a bully that is bullying, and then you have someone that is being bullied, and then you have the bystanders that doesn't do anything about it. They know about it, but they don't want to do anything.
Great example.
Yeah. And we know that bullying it's not nice, it's not good. We shouldn't tolerate it. But at the same time, we as consumers, we kind of, we don't want to change our habits and lifestyle to even though we understand what is happening. But it's just super complicated to change what we are 9 billion people on the planet. It's super complicated to change everyone's mindset and decide how we would supposed to live our life in the near future. But I guess COP26, they are like, it's the first step of many steps that needs to be taken at some point.
I think that it's not even just people changing their mindsets. Where do you even start if you want to change people's mindset?
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes I compare it to my guests when we are discussing this. It's like turning around a ship that would be the size of Iceland. and you're not going to do any 360s with the ship. You need to correct the course in small steps.
Yeah.
And I guess we are kind of in the first just deciding on how to change the measurement tools and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But it's a beginning, at least.
Well, I'll give you a real life example of that. The ship that got stuck on the canal,
Yeah.
and then it got stuck, and the ripple effect of all the ships that couldn't get through and all the cargo that was there. And then, I mean, like the ripple effect of that one ship. And so it is that whole entire, like, we can sit there and have the idea of having discussion, but you have to start somewhere. So that little forklift that was digging and that picture, and people were like, what is it doing? I'm like, I go, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
That's
true.
All right.
Yeah.
I've taken way too much of your time. I love talking to you. I'm hyper, I'm high energy. So I'm you when you were younger, but I'm still that. So I'm the Energizer bunny. But I enjoyed this conversation because one was, you're calming. Your voice is very calming and soothing, which is good. Educational in every single way. Made me think. Continually, Iceland opens the world of excitement and enjoyment. People want to come. So I want to promote you as much as I possibly can. But I am going to end it right now. For now, this will not be the last conversation. I will always come to you for other things in the future. You never know. But also just to find out what happens after the major season, because you're coming into the big season for. So what's the peak season for Iceland?
So I would say that the summer we have the most guests.
Okay.
But for us as a company, we are the most busiest in the wintertime when we are visiting this like wonder world of ice caves where you go underneath the glacier and you just have a blue ceiling above you that is mind-boggling.
That's when I want to come. Yeah, that's for me. Yeah, but I mean, summertime. Not that I don't want to come during the summertime, but that's for me it's what I want to see the most. So I'm excited for that. So that's on my mind. But all right, so we're gonna end it by the last question I asked everyone. We talked about this at the beginning, but I just to warm you up. But now you have it in your mind. If you had a personal ask and a professional ask of anyone that's listening to you right now, what would be your personal ask and what would be your professional ask? And they can't be the same thing.
So my personal ask would be to finally find a more equilibrium between the personal life and the work life. Mm-hmm. That would be very, very valuable. And professional, I would say that if everything would be successful with the upcoming building of the Glacier and Mountain Center, and we could play a part in changing the world with other people, that would be not too much to ask.
That's a good personal and a professional ask. And by the way, happy wife, happy life.
Yes, I know that.
You already fired her. You got to give her something else.
Yeah.
Oh, my friend, thank you so very much. This was such a wonderful conversation to have. I really appreciate you taking your time.
I'm glad to be with you and hope everything goes well. And I see you in 2022. Yeah.
That's me promising. That's like there's only 3 places that I'm definitely going: Galapagos, Portugal, and we'll call it, and Iceland are the 3 places that I'm like, I am working really hard for only those 3 places. If anything else happens, in other locations, great, but those are the only 3 places that I have clear 2022 vision.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.